Right, folks, well, I've got 20 minutes to start the next customer's repair. So, I'm just going to press some buttons on here. And get this box with a Midland 278 in it. Now, I'm absolutely convinced that the last time we had one of these, it worked. Oh, it's 248. I was thinking it was 278. Oh, I don't know if we've had one of these. I can't remember. So they suffer from dry joints. If it's the one with the meter, those meters usually fail very early on. Wow, it's got it actually got a squirky diagram in the back. That's fantastic. I'll have to look at his notes as to what he said was amiss with it, but we'll run through it here. Sent the side bobbles, which is not a good idea. Unlikely to get them back. Do not send accessories. This gentleman's an end user, that's probably why he's not realised that. Right, so connect it up to the test gear. We don't have power connectors, but we've got the trusty crocodile clips, which I enjoy shorting together if they actually go down these holes. I don't mind powering it up at full voltage 13.8 switch on, because I don't think it's an unknown set. Oh dear, it's the blue display one. So our experience of the Midland 78 is we can never get 4 watts out of the blue display ones, and we can never get the VCOs to track temperatures very well, and they take about 1.5 seconds to go into transmit. So put it on channel 20, switch picture in picture on, get a piece of paper. I've got to really push on to get through any customer repairs that are left. I don't think there's any way we'll get any done in December. I know I've got 17 carol services to do, and they have to be prepared for. So, and there's the normal church services as well, and then there's our main work in church organ building, plus a little bit in two-way radio, other than CB as in business radio. So Midland 248. So, got picture in picture on. I'll go to the 3 watt scale, and it's doing 2.7 watts. Deviation 1, 2. Hang on, why aren't we reading anything? Probably because we were doing CPT yesterday. 1, 2, 1. Oh, it is doing 2. So we can bring that up hopefully to 2.2. And frequency wise, I've only put the test set on, so we'll take this with a pinch of salt. It's 27,79099. Well, it should be 125, but that's not far enough out to be worried, anything to worry about anyway. And now we'll go to receive 27,79125. Just like that. Ah, this is deaf as a post. So unless it's got some kind of RF gain, it has. Make sure it's in DX and not local. Oh no, that was not. No, that's yes. Oh, it's in local. Look, that's better. And turn the squelch down. So plug our test equipment into extension speaker. Well, I must say, I mean, it hasn't done that in transit, has it? It hasn't gone into local in transit, and the RF gain hasn't gone down to 50% in transit. So I don't know why he's got it set to be as deaf as a post. I really don't. It's doing. It's not scary. It's not brilliant, but it's doing 1.25 microvolts for 12 dB synad, and hopefully it can do better than that. But it's not unusable at all. I'll just go back to deviation because we did it with the mic gain. Wow, it's still 2. This hasn't made any difference. So I'm going to go and look at his notes, and we'll come back to the video later on. So one of the annoying things about this kind of set, and I've looked at the customer's letter and his complaint, is it's low transmitted audio. You've got to get these tabs clear of the heat sink or the bulge or whatever it is, and it's a swine to do them both simultaneously and lift so that the tab that goes under the front that's that one out. There we go. What a swine. And then you're greeted with a soldered in speaker, which for something which is supposed to be an expensive set is disappointing. It seems to have been damp. Got marks there. Right. I don't even remember if we've ever seen one of these. We probably have. August 2009 is the version. So we'll start with the transmitter, and clearly we've got this running through. Although that looks like it should be in the transmitter, it's probably in the receive. So we'll just see whether we can bring up the power a bit from 2.7 watts. I'm presuming he only uses UK channels, he didn't tell me otherwise. No change, that's at peak. No change. No change. Have we got anything down there? No change. Just check that that isn't receive. No, it's not making any difference. So that's going to be receive. So it's a matter of looking through the presets. And I think the easiest thing to do here is to actually look at the circuit diagram that the radios come with. In fact, I'll spend the next 45 minutes scanning that, I think. We haven't got a copy on file. So I'm glad it's come with it. All I could find online was the first few pages with the instructions, but not the info in the back. So it does tell us a couple of these. It tells us that RV301, all this saves time, RV301 is deviation. RV201 is AM mod. Doesn't tell us which the transmit meter is, but it has got a preset for that. But it tells us that the RX meter is RV101. I wonder if it's going to be really nice and tell me which the preset for squelch is. But the fact that we've got a few out of this just saves me faffing about. So there's going to be a power regulator. There is, it's there. I'll scan this and then I can blow it up on the computer screen. Well, I've had to go to some trouble here because I needed to do one of my black and white photos. The service information I've printed out. Where have I put it? It's up here. So I've printed out, I've scanned the customer's instruction book. I looked online and I could find the first so many pages scanned here, but there's some circuit diagrams and layouts in the back. I think it's beyond the Polish section, and although they're not fantastic, they're a lot better than nothing, and that's what I've been able to do. So what we need to do is to, you see that layout, this layout they've done, when we look at the radio, we've got a variable resistor there. And when so it's between the capacitors. When you look here, yes, there is a variable resistor. I think it's RV301 it says. RV501. So we don't know what that does. So what we're going to do, that's why I've done this photo, because it's a bit clearer. So we'll do what I usually do, and we will colour in with my best crayons. I found the red one. I want the... No, that's not red, is it? That's green. If you can hear the ultrasonic cleaner in the background, it's doing tonight's 10 records. That's singles, by the way. Where have I put the highlighters? Here they are. So one of the first ones we can see, I'm going to look between the radio so that is 301. That is 501. That one is either 802 or 902. And that one is 901. So Any advance on 3 down that side? None under that ribbon cable. So 301, we've agreed on that. 802 and 801. And I've written it the wrong way around. So, first of all, where's 101? Have we found that? Guess what? We haven't found that. And 201, have we found that? No, we haven't found that either. 301 we've found, and that's deviation. So that's TX. So why can't we find, are they numbered differently on this radio to what the instruction book says they are? Or have I misread everything twice? No, that's my conclusion. So why don't this tally? So it definitely says 301 is deviation. It says 201 is modulation for AM. And it says 101 is the RX meter. I noticed down here we've got a power regulator. And that could be 902. (902) power question mark. S meter looks to be 802. So I bet TX meter is 801. So basically, that diagram is for a previous model. Well, there's nothing we can mess up which we can't unmess. So we'll go for, I want to increase the power, I think it's 902. And 902 is there. So we'll put picture and picture back on. And we've got 2.8 watts. Yeah, that's power, all right. So I've changed ranges. There we have it. We now have full 4 watts. Wallow. 1, 2, wallow. Deviation. Wallow. Is actually, since this set's been on, is now lower than it was. 1 2 wallow, 1 2 wallow. It's now 1.7, having altered the deviation. Interesting. I think we're going to have to switch this to AM in case it's one of these sets where the AM is done first. This is not in to have AM done, so unfortunately I didn't tell the customer there's an extra fee, but so there can't be an extra fee for the extra faff. Right, let's see how we do that. With the instruction book, we'll turn the radio off. Turn the radio on whilst pressing AM, FM and scan at the same time. So there. Oh yeah, those two. Okay. UK. So it needs to be just for the test. Tell you what, we'll put it in. Oh, I wasn't quick enough. Of course, this is so frustrating when you've got to try and read the instructions and there's a time limit. So there's loads of things on here not shown on the list. And then press AM FM. So I've got it in EU and we're now in AM. I'll select channel 20. And we'll go back into transmit power. Which is 1 watt. Okay, so which country which country has got 4 watts of AM? What a faff. Italy is the only one showing. And oh, and Spain. Got a choice of 2. We usually go for Spain, don't we? Right, start again. AM, FM, scan. Well, we've got the E. That's it. Right, channel 20. Actually doing 4.4 watt. Now this is on, of course, CPT band. Let's go to FM. Yeah, I'll have to bring that down a fraction. So compromise, that's at 4.1. Go back to AM and see what the modulation is. I'll have to retune the meter. I'm going to have to unplug the speaker. Wallow. I could say that's over the top slightly, but we need to find AM mod, which quite clearly tells us that it's 201, but there isn't a 201. So the chances is that it's that one there, which is 901. So I'll bring the oscillator back. And that's showing 80% or so. I'm right. So we'll set that to 90%. So now we'll go to FM and we'll switch to deviation. Wallow. Wallow. 1 2 1 2 wallow. I sometimes wonder with mics, but you know it's working on AM, so why isn't it on FM? Let's have a listen to ourselves. I'm going to have to. I don't have to reprogram the damn portable. No. Right. We'll put the radio on frequency. So now it's 27205. Spot on. It's drawing 2 amps, this thing. You know, when so many of the older sets, you can 900 milliamps to 1200 milliamps. These newer sets are so much thirstier on power. So much for being green, eh? So, transmit meter. Chances are it's the one to the left. I'm right again. So that's showing 4 bars when I key up, which it already was doing. So back to the that is TX meter, that's AM mod, that's power, so that is power meter, that's going to be receive meter, and presumably the other one's going to be squelch. There's the other one down there. So nothing like that diagram said. So I'm going to go back to UK channels. So hopefully when we press the AM/FM button it goes to CPT. It does. It's FM only unless you program it for an AM. So it's post 2014. It is a... No, it wasn't. It was manufactured 2009. So it can't be used on AM, can it? No. It has to be post 2014 and CE approved. So it's CE approved, but it isn't post 2014. So there we are. So I did set that up just in case it affects the AM. Whilst I've got this side open, we'll just check some of these screws. biggest snag is we set the deviation before lunch, and when I came back to set, the deviation was no longer where I set it, and it will not come up beyond 1.7. So that is a problem. And with it being a surface mount set, there's not a lot I'm going to do. I think this is a set we're going to be sending back without being able to do anything further for him. And this is going to be a problem with newer sets. Just go through everything else. So once again we'll check deviation, because I can now hear myself using our monitor receiver, which is why I've gone back to the UK. So we'll retune the deviation meter, just see if we're still on frequency. Near as damn it we are, yeah, excellent. So it's doing that between the different blocks of channels. We're on that, want to be on that meter, and deviation, and retune the test set. Wallow, 1 2 1 2, wallow. See, I'm loath to suspect the mic because it looked like it was working okay in AM. Anyway, let's see what it sounds like at close proximity with our monitor receiver. Testing 1 2, testing 1 2 3 4 5, 1 2 1 2, and that sounds okay, but it's quieter than it should be. Though it is louder than they ship them. Right, go to the receive. Actually, we'll just check PA. Testing 1 2, testing 1 2. It doesn't use mic gain. What does it use? Are we in PA? I'm not in PA. 1 2 1 2 1 2. Testing 1 2 3 4 5 5 4 3 2 1. Testing 1 2 3. Well, there's nothing wrong with that mic, is there? And back to CB. So it was a bit on the deaf side. So I turned it up on channel 20 of, I'm assuming it uses UK channels. Our channel is only about UK channels, and I'm sure anybody who wants to use 80 channels will say so. This is again when you're not dealing with the trade, which is what we normally only do. The trade know exactly what we do and what we don't do. I've dropped my best trimming tool. Right, back with the radio. So we want 2779125 on the signal generator. There we go. We'll put the cyanide meter on, and we'll put that's back on there. So it's exactly where it was, nothing's changed, and it's pretty deaf. So I said before, we're looking at 1.25 microvolts for 12 decibel cyanide. So we'll knock that down, the attenuator, so we have about 4 dB on the cyanide meter, and we can see whether we can gain any improvement. Now I did mess with that coil, but nothing has changed. So I put it back right, as you can tell. very slight improvement there. So like with a lot of modern sets, there's very, very few adjustments. Now we're going to do the detector. So I'll put the oscilloscope on. We'll put an S9 equivalent signal. That looks horrid. Let's check some of these. Yes. That was quite a lot out. Absolutely no improvement. To be honest, it's doing, for 10 microvolts, he's actually doing 1 microvolt. So, did I say that right? I didn't, did I? For 10 dB synad, it's doing 1 microvolt. And it's doing the 1.25 for 12 dB. It's not that the set's deaf, it's noisy. That's 0.3 of a microvolt. So to here down to 0.25, but the synad's not great. Is it because I've got the lid off? Well, no, we had the lid off, didn't we, in the initial test. It's doing the power. It's not doing the deviation. So let's get S9 back on the signal generator and make sure the meter says S9. Well, it doesn't. The meter's going to be the one on the right there. There we have S9. So that's now set up right. And we'll just set the squelch. So squelch control to full. And what we're going to do, it's about 1 millivolt. I'd like it more sensitive than that. So the only adjustment left which we haven't looked at is this one, and that's going to be there for squelch. Misses Mr. 21, you're right. So I want it to open at 100 microvolts. And it does. So receive meter, squelch, the 3 coils in the receive, transmit, 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 and the one in there, and that's the detector. Mind you, at the end of the day, it's 11 years old, isn't it? I just don't think the newer sets are going to last anything like the older ones do, and especially not surface mount ones. Right, so one final thing, is there anything we can do about this transmitter deviation? Wallow, 1 2 1 2, wallow, wallow. So back with the little oscillator. One, two, wallow. Nope. So we'll have a look at the circuit diagram as to what could cause that. Which in a conventional set we may be able to do something about, but not in a surface mount set where I can't get any tools in. So you've got a flat board, you know, like with a computer. Let's look at I'll show you what I mean. I just chucked, while I was looking for that tool that fell on the floor, I just chucked something on the pile. So if we have we've got a board there. So if you imagine this is surface mount, you got it this way on. You can put this in a jig, and you can get your reflow hot gas thingy onto this, and you can remove components, you can replace them when they're surface mount. Yet I'm pretending this isn't surface mount. But because this is mounted on a chassis, I can't get down there, and especially if the fault's down here, I can't physically get down there. What we're not going to do is to take the board out of the chassis, because it just isn't worth it. If you worked out how long it would take to take the radio out of the actual thing out of the chassis, and then of course you can't try it because the bare board has got to go back in the chassis. So when they manufacture these, they actually use a pin jig. They're not even in the chassis when they do a lot of the alignment. It's the bare board, because they can, but obviously we can't. So it's a bit of a problem, and it's not worth spending hours and hours and hours. But I'd hate to see things that we haven't fixed. Well, that's the T2000. Where did the manual go for this? It went up there, didn't it? So, let's pore over this circuit diagram. I'm tempted to think it's an electrolytic capacitor, because the fact when we switched it on initially, it was able to be set, and then it subsequently turned to poo. .301 is deviation. I just can't see where the deviation control is shown on the circuit diagram. Doesn't help that it goes over 2 pages with a gap in between. All the speech processing's down here and that's working fine. Because we're able to set up AM and it's absolutely great on public address. So it has to do its frequency modulation with the varactor diode at the synthesizer. You know, capacitor 104s are likely type of thing to have failed. Or that capacitor there. Whichever one the audio's on. I think we're going to get Mr. Chippy. I just can't see it on the circuit diagram. I think we're going to get Mr. Chippy to blanket change these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 electrolytic capacitors. It's got to be being dragged down. Wallow, it's actually getting worse. It's now 0.5 of microwatts. So the more the set's on, the worse it gets. Right, we'll come back to it. Well, it's now a few days later and we're going to have to wrap this setup not done. I've come to the conclusion, I've had Mr. Chippy take the wax out of the VCO. What can happen, you can end up with the wax getting, believe it or not, moisture in it, and then you've got snags. So we know the radio's working on PA, so we know the speech processing circuits and the microphone end of it's working fine. We were able to set up AM, which this radio can't be used on because it's before the time that was permitted. But as far as the FM goes, we can't set the deviation and there's noise with it. So really, when you look at the squirky diagram, and where was I looking? The only thing we came to the conclusion is that the diode turns out to be there. I didn't realise it's a SOT23 and looks like a transistor, but the varicap diode is there, and it's a number that we can't get, and there's a rider to that, which I'll tell you in a moment when I find what it says on here. And I did a search and I've only seen these used in one other product. Well, forgetting about where it is on the circuit. Anyway, I've printed out a data sheet. I managed to track down a data sheet for it. It's from Kia. It's a KDV 251S. Now the way it looks on the information I was able to find, it looks like KDV 25IS. It isn't, it's 251. It's either the M version or the S version. The M version is like a TO92 transistor with the leg chopped off, and the version in this radio is a SOT23 surface mount. So the bodge thing to do would be to put any old variant cap diode in and see whether it worked. Now when we remove it, if I zoom in, so there's your deviation preset, and that diode 302 is the varicap diode. Now if we apply, if I put a metal probe, in this case a screwdriver, on the input, and therefore you're going to be generating hum, you know, you're going to get a little click. If I put it on the output, you get a massive click and well beyond full deviation. And you know, that to me tells me that it's the vari-cap dowd that's played out. And you know, these sets are what, 12 years old now, and it's frustrating, isn't it, that something as simple as that would be so easily fixable on sets of yesteryear, but not so on this. Now, I did some research and I'm able to order from the Far East a KDV25S. I've had to buy 50 of them. So, there we are. We'll wait for 6 weeks. We'll wrap this job up so the radio isn't fixed. We think we know what's wrong with it. And there you go. So we'll do a revisit. We'll have to put this in the box, not send it back to the customer. And he was going to put it in the bin. It hasn't. It's still bin fodder, isn't it, at the moment? Let's put this camera back to where it lives. Because I'm going to have to get on with this week's one and only CB repair, which is a President, and this one doesn't, probably isn't very promising either. It's a current model and it's not transmitting, so we'll see what happens when we get that one out. So I'll say 73s to you all, and this was the Midland 248 from round 2010, not fixed. Thanks for watching.